Luther's Small Catechism with Explanation. The Black and Maroon edition, copyright 2017, from Concordia Publishing House.
The sixth commandment: you shall not commit adultery. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we lead a sexually pure and decent life in what we say and do, and husband and wife love and honor each other. Question 68E from the sixth commandment. E. Treasuring our husband or wife as a gift of God and loving him or her sacrificially. 194 Ephesians 5:33. However, let each of one of you love his wife as himself. Let his wife see that she respects her husband. Note, in marriage vows, a husband and wife promise to love each other for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, until death separates them. Read Genesis 2:23, 1 Corinthians 7:1-11, Ephesians 5:21-33, and Titus 2:11-14. Genesis 2:23. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." 1 Corinthians 7:1-11. Now concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, but then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, as a concession, not a command, I say this: I wish that all were as I myself am, but each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am, but if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry, for it is better to than to burn with passion. To the married I give this charge, not I, but the Lord: the wife should be not separate from her husband. But if she does, she should remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband should not divorce his wife. Ephesians 5:21-33. Submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle, or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The mystery is profound, and I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. Titus 2:11-14. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age, waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness, and to purify for himself a people for his own possession, who are zealous for good works. What does this mean? Husbands and wives are important to God, and important to the church, and important to our world. And we have some rules and guidelines of what it means to be a Christian husband and wife. We do not do what the world does. We do not just dump our partner because we're dissatisfied. We try to reconcile. We try to love them. We sacrifice for them. We submit to one another. We have an orderly kind of creation that God has given us of male and female, and mom and dad, and husband and wife, and with children to follow. These are all good and godly things. Something to be aware of in our society today, there's a problem in that people fake marriage. And they say, well, as long as we love each other, then we're married. I'm like, nope, that's not in God's eyes. Marriage is a covenant. Marriage is witnessed. Even in our state, according to the fourth commandment, we have to file some paperwork for marriage to be under the state. These things are important for marriage because they give some definition. They say this is who we are, so that we don't leave one another. We don't abandon one another. We tell people, our husband and our wife, how we love them and how we stay with them. And we do this year after year. This is an important thing. And if there's a difficulty in marriage, which there will arise because we have sinfulness in ourselves, that we want to try to get help. That's our desire, is we want to get some therapy or marriage counseling or go to a pastor or go to a Christian friend to say, hey, how did you work this out? How did this work? How can I have some wisdom to help with this problem with my wife or with my husband? Because we want to keep this relationship that God has given us.
The Lord bless your day as well as your week.